looks like more people will be hopping in as we're going. All right, ready to get started?
Good.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining the PLC, the first Montana Writing Teachers Professional Learning Community Online. This is our kickoff event. I'm Christy Mock-Stutz with the Office of Public Instruction. I'm the English Language Arts Coordinator, and part of my mission is to build a community of practitioners across the state. We have such a big state, and a lot of teachers teaching in rural areas where they don't have a writing teacher down the hall to just pop ideas off of, or read an article with, or share some best practice ideas. And so I was looking for ways to bring teachers together, and online seems to be a great way to do that. And I want to introduce Bridget Paddock and Wendy Tyree from Skyview High School in Billings, who jumped on this idea in a conversation we were having a couple of months ago, wanting to host it and really to create this community of teachers across Montana. So Bridget and Wendy, go ahead and introduce yourselves and why you're interested in this project too.
So I'm Bridget Paddock. I teach at Skyview High School, as Christy said, and I'm also part of Montana Writing Project, so I feel like I have a really strong group of teachers that I'm able to access for professional development, for just having outreach to a community that I get to work with. And Wendy's one of those people, so it's been really exciting to be able to think about how we bring that to teachers across the state of Montana. So let's see how it goes.
And most of that is the same for me. I'm Wendy Tyree. I also teach at Skyview. And I started teaching at Rapple High School, and so I was the English teacher. And having that contrast from going from being the only English teacher to then having 13 English teachers in my department, I don't know what was more of a shock. My first 2 years of teaching as the only English teacher, or then coming into a department where I had to work with 13 other English teachers. And so finding those two levels and figuring out how to make that work. And knowing that both have awesome strengths, but not really knowing how to reach out or what to do that. And of course, Montana Writing Project has helped with that a ton, and then just interacting with people as well.
So did you say what you're teaching now, Wendy and Bridget? I didn't hear it. Did you guys say what you're teaching now? Because then I thought if you finish up the sort of introductions, and that way then we can move on and have the other members also introduce themselves, since we have a few other people logged on and joining us today.
So I currently teach sophomore English and senior English predominantly.
And for the next 2 days, I teach senior English and freshman English. And then next week, I will teach freshman English and junior English. So.
Nice change. All right. So I know we have a few other people attending. So Anna, would you mind starting introducing yourself and where you're from, what you teach, just so we can get to know you a little bit?
All right. Can you hear me okay? I just unmuted myself.
Yep.
Okay. So I teach at Arley High School, and I have 6 different classes, 6 different preps, but 2 of them are senior classes. So one of them is college prep writing, and the other one is actually Writ 101, so it's a dual enrollment. And then I teach a history class, and then the rest are English Lit classes. And then in the spring, like Wendy, things are about to switch, and so I'll have a couple speech classes. But I also teach at the University of Montana as an adjunct. I teach a 440 class, which is the methods of teaching writing. And then this spring, I've got an online advanced strategies of teaching writing that I'm doing there. It's a 547 class. So if you know anybody who wants to pick up some writing credits, it actually helps. It helps, certify you to teach dual enrollment. And I have a friend here, so do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay.
The shadow.
Brian Dolphy. I'm student teaching with Anna. I'm a master's student in the English teaching program at the University of Montana.
Excellent. Welcome.
That's us.
Hello.
All right, who else do we have? Kurt, we can hear you. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Is my keyboard distracting? I know I'm carrying on these two discussions. I can mute. Anyway, Kurt Bobbitt, is my image showing up? I have my camera on.
I don't see you. Does anyone? Yeah, I don't see you, Kurt, but we can hear you. I just can't see you.
All right. It's not particularly complimentary, but nonetheless, I'm not wearing makeup. I teach at the University of Great Falls, and this semester have 3 sections of business writing, which is an upper division class here. All of our students to graduate have to take a 300-level writing class to graduate, and it's just the one that most of our nursing students and all of our accounting and business students have to take. We always have students from all majors in there. Fortunately, our upper class limit is 23, so the 3 sections don't represent a terribly large number of students. So this semester I have 1 on-campus section and 2 online sections. And it's one of the online sections that I'm carrying on the text chat with right now. Not very successfully, I'm afraid. Because I want to pay attention and take part in this professional learning group as well. So if I don't respond directly, I'll hear it and say something eventually. So in connection with my interest in this group, I've tried to maintain active membership in the State English Teachers Association, which most of you know of. I mean, most people I know are on. And as a former president, Christy's been attending meetings of MEDLA recently. So I'm very interested in that regard, and I will report on this session next Wednesday at our online conference of the Standing Committee on Affiliates, which is an NCTE group that exists. And I'm going to use this as an example of a program in our region, our geographic region, Region 7, that is serving teachers. So anyway, that's too long for an introduction.
Thanks for joining us, Kurt. I know you're sort of doing double duty there with some coursework, so we appreciate you joining.
You're all going to be famous.
Bridget and Wendy.
And Christy.
So I did just see that Rita Brown was logged on, but then logged off, so I hope she didn't lose connection. So if she logs back in, we will have her introduce herself. And I know JL is listening in. I don't know. I see she's muted herself, so she may have gotten a call come in or something. But just for those of you that don't know JL, I think you all do. JL Prezo is she is the director of my division of content standards and instruction here at OPI, and she's really excited about this initiative too. And so she was logging on to join us. So if she pops back in, then we'll have her introduce herself personally. But just for you to know, she's there and probably listening in or got a call. So is that everyone? Did we all introduce ourselves? And I've seen, I don't know if you can all see the attendees, but I've seen some people popping in and popping out. So hopefully, if they come in, we'll just invite them in to introduce themselves, if that's okay. So Bridget and Wendy, what's your next agenda item?
On our agenda, you see, our next thing is to kind of think about and get to know each other. And in keeping with, is a writer's, English teacher writer, PLC, I want you guys to think about and then share your first or favorite memory about writing. And so the 3 of us were kind of talking about this last week when we were planning things. And Christy had a funny story.
So I will share it if it inspires you at all. When in 5th grade, we had to write autobiographies, and I have this distinct memory of writing about my 1st grade teacher when I was writing my autobiography. And for the longest time in 1st grade, I remembered thinking that PE meant to go to the bathroom, because every time my 1st grade teacher, it was time to go to PE class, she would say, okay, it's time for PE, and we would all line up and go to the bathroom and then go to the gym. And it was not really until I was writing this autobiography that I put all the pieces together and realized that I had this complete misconception on capital P period, capital E period, and I just thought it was PE meant to go to the bathroom in some way, and I just did not put that connection together. And so it was interesting to like be working on my autobiography as a 5th grader and kind of put all of this comprehension together. So that was just sort of a fun early, processing writing memory for me. And her name was Mrs. Humbert, I still remember.
I think we talked about this last week, because one of my earliest school writing memories is attending, I don't know if it was at Rocky or MSUB, but they must have, and I don't know if David still have it, some sort of young writers conference, and you would create a book or a novel the day, and I was probably only 2nd or 3rd grade, and mine must have been about rabbits, probably because it's the only thing I could draw. But there were a lot of rabbits in the book.
It's fun to think about our early emergence into writing.
Would anyone else like to share?
Mine isn't nearly as exciting, but we had one of those big art easels, and my sister would always draw things, and I didn't know how to draw, so I would just write. So she would have this beautiful image, and then I would have, like, cat, dog, or, but that's the younger sister sibling issue.
Mm-hmm.
We're scratching our heads over here. I don't know. I could say that when I was a kid, I lived in one state. My friends and I continued our friendship by writing like a newsletter back and forth. Like she would write an article and we would mail it because it was the 70s or whatever.
Right.
And then we would get it and then we would add on and then mail it back, and that was some early creative writing.
I love that. I love that idea.
Okay, if we don't. I just don't want to not include you.
I took a writing workshop from Eileen Miles, who was like a rock star poet, and he was really cool. So I really enjoyed my time writing with her. She kind of opened my mind up to a lot of new things.
Nice. Excellent. All right. Well, what do you guys think? Should we jump on to the next agenda?
I put mine in the chat. In some ways, it follows up with Christy's linguistic slip-up. Right after throwing snowballs at cars, Mrs. Mitchell, who was a humorless whip-cracker of a teacher, had me write an essay about snowballs, and I didn't have any idea what an essay was. And so, because she said write, I just took for granted that means I had to use a pencil and paper. So I did it overnight and wrote an S period, A period about snowballs, and gave it to her, hoping that my mother would never find out, my parents would never find out. And so as soon as she read it, of course, she laughed hysterically. And then that probably gave her an aneurysm because she didn't laugh at all in other contexts. And ironically, instead of keeping it from my mother, of course, Mrs. Mitchell immediately gave her a copy. And as I put in the text chat, my mother definitely did not laugh. First of all, because I was doing something as insidious as throwing snowballs, but also that I would dare get in trouble in school and not let her know. And then, of course, the embarrassment of a child of hers not knowing what an essay was probably as serious as any of the other problems. So that's one of my earliest and most distinctive memories of writing.
Kurt, how old were you? I didn't hear that part if you said it.
Third grade. So what?
Wow. That's great. It does kind of fall right in line with my PE and SA.
Yeah. I wish I still had a copy of that paper, but I don't. I think my mother probably, if she didn't put it on the refrigerator, she probably destroyed it.
Burned it in the wood stove, right? Oh, no.
Awesome. Okay, so part of our intent as well for this meeting is to kind of find out what types of things would be of interest to you, what areas of interest, any needs that you might have. If you want to take a minute, number 4 is a writing prompt that, just so you can kind of generate some ideas and then share them with the group. What is an area of interest or need for you? What would you like to focus on in these discussions? And then also kind of why are you interested in being a part of this group?
I typed in material in the text chat. Is that okay? I don't
Yes.
see.
When your second one, when you said you're interested in forming editing groups of like-minded colleagues on various projects, do you mean for like research and publishing purposes?
Well, either that, sure, yeah. Articles for state journals, local journals, peer-reviewed journals, but also those people who are interested in working on poetry projects and so forth. I would think another group. I'm meaning that very broadly. I think one of the benefits here is that if those of us and others who end up taking part in this group have friends, writing project alum or friends and colleagues and so forth, we'll have a better sense of knowing who might want to work with them, as well as just kind of passing along information. So I hope that this group might end up being a kind of a clearinghouse as well as a source of actual partnerships.
Great.
If Christy or I or Anna or JL could mention, for example, at a Maitland meeting who was interested in working on a project to bring, I don't know, some kind of speaker or consultant to a school system or to Montana, we could then circulate that through Maitland and maybe get some more ideas or even some more resources.
Excellent. I wrote a haiku that answers those questions. So I just typed it into the chat. So sent that out. So my hope is to build communities, support teachers in MT, and find my people here.
Anna, how about you? Is there anything in particular you'd like to see from this book?
Well, Calais is like perfect timing right here because I'm going to confess something. I knew that I had gotten an email from someone asking me to join something on Wednesday at 3:45, and I, for the life of me, couldn't remember. Well, and then I had like 7 emails, so I couldn't figure out where to look for it.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, if anybody knows what this would be, it's Calais. So I messaged her and I said, what's happening on Wednesday at 3:45? She's like, oh, it's the Writing PLN with Christy from OPI. And I'm like, of course she knows what it is. So,
Colette is the information gatherer, and it looks like she is joining us. Just getting back from her meeting. Hello!
So, so I guess that was sort of a way to say that I hadn't really thought that much about it because I was trying to remember where I was going today. But I will say that in our English department meeting, we're all doing kind of book reviews, and so I reviewed Writing with Mentors, and I'm actually using this in my online class that I'm going to be teaching here in the spring. It's a really cool text, great ideas. I'm not that familiar, or I guess I should say I'm not that experienced with mentor texts, and so these two ladies really lay it out nicely. And also I've been tweeting with this one, Rebecca Odell, and she will answer any question you have. So anyway, that's something that I'm interested in developing, so if people have ideas about that. And that's kind of my thought for what I'd like to get out of it is just to share ideas and teaching strategies because, we get stuck in our ways, and I think having some new ideas is always a good thing. And this isn't really part of the question, but I was thinking about how to grow this network. I'm not sure what else you did besides send out that one email, since I couldn't even remember what email I should look for it in, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. But anyway, so I don't know if you send it out via Twitter or any of that stuff, but definitely there's some ways that I can help with that. And since I have the floor, Ryan, do you want to add anything?
Sure. My area of interest is creative writing, so I just was thinking about getting more high school students involved in creative writing.
Cool.
And Anna, I wanted to say the book Writing with Mentor Texts, right? I understood that right. And when I was at the NCTE, one of my favorite workshop that I attended there was on pushing students to be their own researchers to find their mentor texts. And I don't know if that is, in that book, but it was such a really powerful way of sort of enhancing that research. And again, this is where, Collet comes in partnering with your librarian and, the sort of information person at your school or in your district who can help, guide those students to be their own, to empower them to be their own researchers, to find their own mentor texts for whatever project or writing piece that they need to attend to. So I'm really excited about that idea because as Colleen knows, since I came back from the conference, I've been like, look at this great idea of sort of this extra layer of research for students. It's not just content, but also then researching the genres of writing and finding the appropriate genre of writing for what they're doing, and then analyzing the writing to find what works, what doesn't work when they find those, text pieces out there. So it kind of goes along with what you were saying a little bit.
Yes, or using whatever a person happens to find to suggest a genre switching, or to experiment with something else that might not have come to mind to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. Bridget or Wendy, did you have anything that you had written down or want to share out?
Mine was along the lines of Anna's, sharing some of our best practices, building resources. I like Kurt's discussion about kind of creating an editor's network and having access to all those different people that we might get involved. But really just having a community, a broader community for more resources.
And I'm going to say about that same thing, part of what I liked about this group is that there are so many focus groups for a specific thing. So if I want to know something about technology, there's a technology group. If I want to know something about, something else with classroom. I can just do one of those groups, and I like that this group can be whatever, not the hot topic of education, but if something changes or if there's something coming through with legislation, or there's something that happens in the news that now is impacting every one of us in our classrooms, we can talk about it this week. And so instead of being like, well, sorry, we had this article we read today, we can say, hey, did you see the news last night? How is this affecting your students? What can we do to get that engaged? What are we doing in our classrooms? And that's what I like, is that it doesn't have to have one specific focus, because the focus can be what are we doing in our classrooms and how can each of us take that. And I do think that we'll have kind of breakout groups, assuming there's more than 7 of us who join this group.
There will be.
But, and even, looking at things, one of my interests is to encourage, I think, pre-service teachers. That was something that we talked about at one of our writing project leadership groups. Is I think about as a starting teacher moving into a rural community, not having a support system, and then just sort of learning through trial and error, and now coming into a bigger school and seeing some of our new teachers having those same issues, and we're in a huge school. And so why do my teachers who have 12 other teachers here not have that same support? And there's all of us in the building, and they're not living in Rapple-J. They're living in Philly. So I like the broad aspect of it. I like the idea of bringing pre-service. That K-16, I think, is a huge strength of this group. So that's my interest, and getting other teachers who are not just English teachers. That's all the marketing that I've done for it. I've tried to engage the science teachers that I know teach writing. But we're also kind of scary as English teachers, and I couldn't convince anyone to join us. But I'll try for next week.
We'll keep working. We'll keep working on that integration. Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hey, Christy. So we are out at 4:15, so we're gonna take off in a second. But can you send that Google Forms link, because I can't click on it, in the screen share.
Oh, okay. I definitely will. I'll just try to click on. I'll just put it in again really quick just to see if a new link would.
Oh, there.
Did it not show up in the chat?
Here it is.
Yeah, so those of you who are here and are not myself or Wendy or Christy, if you could take a moment at some point to fill out, we just have a form with your contact info, and there's some questions about what works best for you for meeting times.
Here
If
it
you
is.
guys could take a minute to fill it out, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
And I guess we didn't run this by the 3 of us, but I guess I would encourage other people who really wanted to be there. Like, I've been emailing with another teacher who is writing her finals right now and said, I'm really stressed out, I can't come to your meeting. But meanwhile, she's emailing me in the process of writing her finals. So I'm going to send her the form because I know she wants to be a part of the group, but just couldn't make it. So
I have a few too. Yeah.
I am good with that form going out to people who want to be involved, so that we do have another way to get a hold of people.
Yeah. And Anna, share it out, and we will be in touch, but we would really appreciate your help in advertising and getting the word out too. So that's a great help if you can help with that.
All right.
Okay. So next meeting is February 10th, 3:45. And then I think what we'll do is we'll gather the results from the Google form to see if there are any, will be a change to that time. I did see several people coming in and out. Like, there were definitely people popping in and popping out. So there seemed like there may be, internet issues or whatever, that we didn't get to talk to them, but I saw them pop in and pop out. So hopefully, they'll be able to log in for the next time, and we'll make sure to get the news out for that. And then the best practice, do you want to talk about that just a little bit, Bridget, for next time?
Yeah, so for next time, as a prompt and to have a discussion about, if you guys who are still here and would like to participate, if you would think about what is a best practice or lesson that you've used effectively in your class, so we can share it and start sharing our best practices like Anna discussed with each other. That would be like what we would like to start with for next month.
Sounds great. Well, does anyone else have anything to add before we close that up for today and look forward to our next meeting on February the 10th at 3:45?
I just wanted to thank the three of you for initiating this activity, and hope that those of us who attended today will find it positive enough to cajole colleagues and others into discussions in a month.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Joel away.
And we will be doing the same here. In fact,
Definitely. If I would just say, I mean, I put it in the chat, but when we record these sessions, and as long as they're not too long, if we're really diligent about sharing the link to the recording, I think that gives people a chance to engage on their own terms. So share away when we get that recording link available.
That would be awesome.
yes, and I am actually going to go ahead and stop recording now, if that's okay with everybody.